Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Gary Keller gave us the definition of what a business is, right? So do you guys consider this a business?
I do, in the fact that I also have online courses that I can lead people to, and we're adding more and more products on the backside. So more validity you build, naturally, people are going to go, well, I like this. What else do you have? They almost force you to do it. They're like, well, hey, what about this? Do you have this? Or will you help me with this? And so they kind of force you to after your audience gets so big.
Yeah.
So yes.
How do you monetize that?
It costs. The online courses cost. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, you have a podcast to drive people to your business.
Yeah.
And then you turn that into.
Right. So it costs money for the online courses. And then we do monthly calls with the courses, because then you get another chance to get in front of people to build a relationship and see who's there and that kind of stuff. So we have a profit share course, Press and I do. We have a listing course, and we're finishing an investment course and a vacation rental course. So we'll just keep adding to those as we hear what people want.
So would you say it's really a tiered program? You bring them in, introduce, then drive them to the next level, and you continue to add value?
Yeah, and I would say a couple things to add to that too. I've heard Gary Keller say for the last 5 years that your list is the most important thing that you have. So the more email addresses that you can get, the better. Then you can use those to monetize any way that you want. I mean, we didn't do this to make money tonight, but you guys all paid $30 to come here. And most of you probably got the email. And so it's because at some point in time, we've gotten your email address. And so we were able to drip on you. We would love to get to the point where we have sponsors, and we talked about that, but it was important to Linda and I to get valid first. And it's been a little over 2 years, and we feel like now we have a good, we could start introducing them.
And to be honest with you, if I could choose between a recruit or the dollars, I'll take the recruit all day long. Yeah. And I know Dayla's here somewhere. Dayla was talking to one of your recruits, and you found out she listened to the podcast and picked up the phone to me and said, hey, will you talk to her? And Dayla's in my region, so I'm going to win when Dayla and Mick win. So to me, that's my first choice, and then everything else is secondary.
And that, believe it or not, has happened a lot, that we get on the phone with several. Yeah, we get on the phone with people, whether other team leaders line them up or somebody else does, and they say, we listened to your podcast. Yeah, I mean... Oh, yeah, from when we had Ken on. Yeah, Rita recruited an R2 from that.
Use ours for the very same reason.
Thank you. And we're happy to hop on with any, just FYI, if you have somebody like that, I mean, we'll hop on and talk to them for you.
100%. I would say that the podcast, it's not set up as a business entity. It's a lead aggregator into all the other businesses. All right. My content is my lead aggregator. And then I get to choose which funnel I'm putting them in. Sometimes it's all of them, but there's others that very specific, right? We had one of the top wholesalers in the country on. And so a lot of the leads that came from that are specifically into anything that I'm doing investment related, right? Investment course, deal flow, all of those things that they're going there. Okay. And they're getting targeted messaging around that. It's the list. And if you've ever been in a product or service business, a product business specifically, I heard this probably 10 years ago now, 1,000 emails should produce you $1 million. Just as a rule of thumb, if you go listen to any of the marketing experts in affiliate marketing and things like that, 1,000 should produce you $1 million. And that's 10 years ago. All right. So if you're not monetizing this in different ways, so we do have a couple sponsors, and we've done it different ways. We've done monthly paid sponsors. We've done per episode sponsors. We've also done affiliate sponsorship. So if you're familiar with Roofstock, for instance, we have an affiliate relationship with Roofstock, which is an online marketplace. Someone clicks through our link, we do make revenue. All right. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can monetize it beyond simply the relationships that you're creating. But the most lucrative is definitely the people that you're in relationship with.
Yeah. I got one last question. So, there's a lot of people here that are going to go and do a podcast, which is why we're here. we may get to a point where we realize we're maybe running up against a roadblock or a wall. How do we know we're there, and how do we pivot? Like, have you hit something? You're like, we're not getting the traction we want. We're not getting the response. And how do we go and look for that? Is there any telltale signs?
Okay. Well, one thing that I learned from Jeff Woods, who did the One Thing podcast, he says it's not the number of downloads that you're after, it's that weekly subscription number. And it takes a massive number to be like in the top 1%. But you'd be surprised. Like, I think our downloads are 798 or something like that a week. You want the per episode. That's the number to watch. And ours keeps going up. So that's what we watch, is that number. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I mean, luckily, we haven't really hit any roadblocks yet that I would know of. We keep kind of just growing.
We'll probably just keep hitting our head up.
Yeah, we just keep going. I mean, heck, we didn't even know if anybody listened for like the first 6 months. We just kept on doing them. But yeah, you want to, as far as like tracking just for purpose numbers, you want to look at your weekly episode, when it was released, and how many episode downloads you got. And so when we did takeaways from Gary's top 200 mastermind 2 Fridays ago, or whenever that was, some of you were there, our actual, it's up a little. It's around between 800 and 900 downloads the day that it drops, that episode. And then we just hit like 240,000 total lifetime unique downloads. So you want to track both of those, but the per episode one is the main one. So for us, we just want to see that it's getting better and that it's not going back down, or it's ever gone down. And ours really has never gone down. It stayed steady around 500 for probably a year, and then it started to jump. Yeah.
Yeah, we're around 400 to 500 episode or downloads per episode. And I would say, as far as like roadblocks, I mean, I think this is with any content platform, right? Ken Pozek's a great example of this. Ken tells the story about, I mean, it was hundreds of videos, I believe, that he put out where he didn't seem like he was getting traction. And then finally it popped, right? And so it's that illustration from Think and Grow Rich, where the diamond's just on the other side. When do you know? I don't think you can know, but you can set yourself up with people that are around you who can at least help you make a better judgment call. For instance, if your downloads aren't growing over a 2-year period, they're staying flat, then something's got to give. Something's got to change. All right?
Linda always tells the story that she always knew that, or heard that you would make it in real estate when you would go to the grocery store, and instead of somebody would saying pass the kiwi, they would say, "Hey, aren't you in real estate?" And so I always love that story, and I think about that with the podcast, because once you start getting traction, I mean, every event we go to, people are like, "Oh my gosh, we love your podcast," or "We listen to your podcast." So I think the more that you start to hear that, then you'll know that it's working.
Do you feel weird when people come up to you? Because I feel very strange.
But tell them about when you went to Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of a squirrel, but it's funny.
Okay, Dana wants me to squirrel a minute. Okay, so I learned from a guy years ago. He was a marketing guy. His name was Howard Britton, and he said, "Linda, you want to do such a good job of building your brand. So this is your brand, whatever you're doing here." And he said that when you go to the grocery store and you stand in the produce section, somebody doesn't ask you where the kiwi is. So I was in Hawaii in 2000 when our daughter graduated from college, and I go up to the counter at the Grand Wailea and I say, "Look, we're the McKissicks and we're here for our spa day." And the lady puts down her pen and she looks up at me and she goes, McKissick, you're in real estate." I mean, this still gives me chill bumps today. But she had moved from our town to Hawaii and remembered that we did real estate. That's what you want with a podcast. You want people to recognize you and say, "Oh, I listened to your podcast," or, "I used your podcast to recruit somebody." Those are the signs that you're actually getting traction.
And see, that was a good squirrel, wasn't it? And one thing I would add to that too is, I think, I don't know, you guys could say this. I think people listen to all of us because we're ourselves. Like, what you hear is just who we are in person. And so the more genuine and authentic and real that you can be when you're doing something like this, that's what people want. They don't want to hear, all your successes and hear you be fake or anything like that. They want to hear just you and how you are if they saw you at the grocery store. So I think don't force yourself to do something that isn't you. I think you got to figure out a way to make it you, because people can, just like we say, clients can smell commission breath from a mile away. People can feel when they're listening to somebody that's inauthentic. And I think that that's really important.
BS meters are really in tune. And this goes all the way back to even the timing question, right? If you're a super high D, which, I mean, yeah, right? Okay. If you're a super high D, maybe a 5-minute podcast actually works. I'm not kidding. I mean, there's very, very successful 5-minute, podcasts out there, right? 5 minutes in real estate. Let's trademark that. Hurry up.
So what is the one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you started doing podcasts?
Can I give 2 things? I feel like one of my guests, when I ask them who's influenced them more than anyone else in their business, and they go and they like squeeze in 4. But there's 2 things. One is more from, I'll give a hardware one, and then I'll give like more of a philosophical one. So the hardware piece of it is just invest in the right equipment right from the get-go. Plan on spending a couple $1,000s, because what we found is it allows us to have the capability to go on the fly and do more things. Okay. By the time we start switching out pieces, I just wish we had invested it all in the front end rather than buying the $3 mics from Amazon. Right. So that's from the hardware perspective. The other perspective, the other thing that I wish I knew was that everyone would say yes. Everyone says yes. And I wish I knew that, because I would have gone even harder on, hey, maybe we need to do this twice a week. What would our pipeline look like if every single week we not only had our regular guests, but we also had a potential recruit on the lineup? Could do big things.
So I would say be real clear about who you're trying to be a hero to. Get real clear in your mind. What is it's like when you write a book. There's no need in writing a book if you don't know what the book is going to actually do for you. We've written a lot of books and they just sat on shelves because we didn't do anything else with them. That was kind of a waste. So what do you want the podcast to do? And get real clear about that. And then the second thing is just stay consistent and just believe that it will work. If you stick with it long enough and you're clear about who you want your audience to be and who you want to be a hero to, and just you'll get better and better at it. Just stay with it.
I agree with everything except for, I would say, a little bit of the opposite of you, on only because I would say don't like wait if you, because we would have never just jump into action. Like if you can't afford $3,000 right off the bat, then just do it, because a lot of times I find that we're like, get ready, and then we never do it. And so I would say if you don't have that, or you don't know what to do, or you don't have a TT or somebody great to produce for you, like just do it and get better as you go, and then get better stuff, or then hire somebody, or then do whatever, because I think now is the time. And I know we're going to spend just like a next 20 minutes or so talking about the market and the industry right now. And I think it's needed more than ever, to be honest. And there are so many, I still talk to independent brokerage owners that do not know that Zillow owns Dotloop. So like there's a need for not only information, but for leadership. And I just heard something so great on one of John Maxwell's like little email videos that he sends. And I can't remember all 3 of them, but he was talking about mentors. And he said, we have the mentors that we know that they make a difference in our life. And then we have the mentors, or we are mentors to people where we know. And then we have the mentors that we've never met them and they don't even know that we exist, but they're a mentor to us because we've read their books, we've listened to their podcasts, we've watched their videos, we've attended their events, or whatever that is. And I think there's a lot of people that are craving leadership and knowledge and information. And so like, just do it. And if you're not perfect in the beginning, don't worry about it, because people don't care about that. They just want to know that you're real, and they just want the information.
To your point, I mean, has anyone hear the static coming off this? We do. Yeah, I mean, it's progress over perfection. And it's also, I would say, I mean, something that keeps popping into my head through a bunch of these questions is just self-awareness. Like knowing yourself, knowing your authentic voice, and being able to deliver, right? Because on the flip side, it's like, maybe you are the type of person that invests the money in, and then it keeps you going, right? Like, I got to see a return on this now. But do whatever you need to do to keep moving forward, right? All right. Any other questions?
Yeah. How do you know you partner with the right co-hosts to make sure they hang on through the low spots?
Well, clearly I didn't have the right co-host. He's not even here with me. No, I'm just kidding, Joe. I love you. Have a lot of conversations with people that are around you. Don't just think that, if maybe you have an assistant team leader, it may not be the assistant team leader. It could be your agent services coordinator. You need someone who can interject, and you need someone who can summarize. That's what we've found. Joe, my co-host, is unbelievable at taking my thoughts and then condensing them into 10 to 15 second snippets so that they're very logical. All right. For us, that works really, really well. Okay. So that was our formula, was can we complement each other so that you can carry the conversation, asking the questions with the guest. Typically that's me. And then do we have someone who can summarize what that guest or what I am saying?
You have to like them. I mean, honestly, I could talk to Linda for hours. I mean, you know what I mean? And we always have fun and we laugh and we do all those things. And I think if you partner with someone that you don't genuinely really love and like, I think it's difficult. And I think that you have to complement each other in that, when she's talking, then it sparks me to think of something to say, or then when I'm talking, then I'll see her write something down. I think you'll know when you kind of can play off of each other that you have the right person.
Yeah. And I already knew Dana's work ethic because I'd watched her, and she's not a quitter at anything. So I think, now I was going to do a health one at one time, and I did do a few, not with Dana. No, that would have been, I would definitely, if I was going to do that, I would definitely need a simplifier, because somebody's got to do all the research. I'm just going to keep talking. However, I did a few episodes and it just didn't go anywhere, and they didn't push me to do anything with it. So I felt like it just wasn't the right time or the right partnership or something. But I did learn from trying to do things on my own that I do better with a co-host. And if you notice Gary Keller, he's always had somebody up with him. And so one day I just realized I don't kept trying to record me by myself. And I'm like, I suck at this. This is horrible. And what I learned is I need a person so that while they're talking, I can think. And so just figure out about yourself. Do you do better with someone else? Or some people can pull it off by themselves, not me.
Yeah, good question. That's a great question.
Can we squeeze? You guys can fight. There's 3 hands that are. If you have a question that we don't get to, 2 more. All right, 1 and 2.
So you touched on it when you were talking about marketing. So my question is specifically around launching. So we've got 23 episodes on the show. My mom's the only one that knows about it.
That's a good start.
Our highest individual downloads, 86.
Okay.
Average is 46 to 65. So my question is, how do you know when to launch? And then in addition to just marketing to the database, what does a good launch look like?
That's a really good question. I'd probably on this question point you to a friend of mine who, there are companies that you can hire for actually not as much as you'd think that specialize in this. We did not do this. But what I'd say is, so you already have 23 episodes that are published, getting those, but you've not actually done an outward facing launch. Okay. So what I would probably do in this instance is I would take your highest downloaded episode and I would blow that out. I may even consider pulling all the episodes down, and someone who's really good in search engine optimization may tell you something different. So maybe I'm saying something, pull them, unpublish all of them, and go back and launch fresh with the first one or the most downloaded one. Okay?
I agree with that because I think the whole great thing about a podcast is kind of there's a suspense of the next episode coming out, and you're anxious to hear what that next episode is. So I would almost like want them to want the other one, a next one, but like tease them a little bit before you just are like, oh, here's 23. Maybe do 2 or 3, have 2 or 3 on there, and then drop the rest. But I would just build out a 1-pager, like Gary says, and we're probably all the same. If it's more than 1 page, like forget it. So I would make a 1-page plan of how you want to actually launch it out. And I would do an email campaign. I would get it on your social media. I would do videos about it. I would do like a meeting before the meeting and plant a couple of people to have listened to some of the episodes and then get them to share it the day that you launch and let everybody know that have some people who have validity that people would listen to say, man, this is a great new podcast. You definitely should check it out. He's awesome. Their content's great. And just get like do a 1-3-5, honestly, and just come up with your priorities and your strategies and then bust it out. I'm a big fan of the 1-3-5. We use it for everything.
Yeah, and then the only thing I would add is get guests on that already have a big following, podcast following, because they'll share with their audience also. Almost everybody that we have will always ask us for the teaser and everything, and then they blast it out to their people. That's the fastest way to get there.
And just like queuing up and planting people, queue up all kinds of reviews on that first day. Like get as many reviews as you can on that first day. What I'm suggesting, I kind of like that it's making us all uncomfortable a little bit. It is to pull everything and actually do a public-facing launch, because I don't think you're actually going to offend those 85 people that are listening.
Some of our interviews, some of them are just content-based, story-based.
Yeah, I think we could do a deeper dive on that. But that's right, and I'm suggesting republishing them. Yeah, for sure. All right, one more question. I don't know if the wind maybe.
How's that? Oh, there we go.
we go.
Okay, perfect. You mentioned this a few times when you were talking in regards to preparation conversations that you do with guests and interviews. Can you just go a little bit deeper into what you prepare them, how you prepare them, that conversation, et cetera?
Yeah, so it starts when they're booked. For us, we have a pre-interview questionnaire that they fill out. It has to be filled out 48 hours in advance of the show, or we will not interview them. Okay, so we hold that expectation. My co-host and I will review that questionnaire just prior to the show. At this point, we have enough experience where we come in on the fly, we sit down, we go through 5 minutes, and we feel well enough prepared. Then the actual preparation of the guest, I give them the timeline of how the episode's going to unfold. I give them a chance to ask questions. I then ask, and we do this is very purposeful. I do all of this, and then I ask, after the guest has asked any additional questions, Joe, is there anything that I've left out? Because maybe he's heard something throughout the course of that 2 minutes that we need to clarify. And we've uncovered a couple big things on episodes before. Hey, you mentioned this. At this point in the episode, we're going to really dive down that rabbit hole. So we're very purposeful about that setup time, which maybe some podcasts are different. What does yours look like?
We do nothing. Surprise.
You guys are so much cooler.
No, when I was on your podcast, it was like, I was like, dang, they're really professional. Like it was good. It felt really good. We don't do that. We just say, hey, we're just going to go with the flow and we just want you to be real. And that's what we do. I mean, Linda said,
we'll say we're going to have an intro and then we're going to ask you this question, kick it off. You say everything you want to say about yourself. Yeah, we'll say you're born, then what happened? And then we will say, and then we'll chime in with questions if we feel like our audience might want us to go deeper. And then we'll do an outro at the end and then stay on just for a few minutes so that the recording uploads, and that's it. That's really all we tell them.
We do make sure at the end of every episode that we have a guest, when we always say, how can people find you? And we let them know, like, come with your handles and your, best contact and all that stuff. But we could be better at that. So that's an area of opportunity for us.
Yeah, definitely give the guests the opportunity to link out to all their content, point someone, give a specific call to action, promo code, whatever. All right. I don't even know where we're at with time.
30 minutes.
We got like 30 minutes. So
are y'all good for 30 minutes to talk about like the industry and stuff?
Did everyone get a bite? Some food?
Drinks? Okay.
There's still a cash bar. I see a pink drink. That's good. All right. So let's talk a little bit about industry update and what's going on in the market. Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah.
All
okay.
right.
So I'm going to read you guys an email. So we were on who was at Family Reunion? Yes. Okay. So when we were at Family Reunion, I heard Gary say we could be in this market another 1 to 7 years. Things are still great. We won't see interest rates high like they were, back in the whatever year that they were high in. And so I left Family Reunion like, great, this is awesome. We're gonna have like another several really great years. Is that loud? Okay. Tornadoes, train.
Can't stop us.
So then 2 weeks ago, I was on Gary Keller's Top 200 Mastermind. And like he said, he opened it by saying we're in a recession and rates are going to, between 10 and 15%. And, the market, we're getting ready to see a really hard market. So I left that call and was like, okay, it's only been 5 weeks since Family Reunion. And I felt like I got a drastically different advice. So I emailed Jason Abrams. And so I want to read you what he wrote back. And I just said, I need your industry guidance here because what I heard at Family Reunion wasn't what I heard on the Zoom today. And I want to make sure that, well, for one, I'm doing a huge industry update on Thursday of this week that a lot of recruits are attending virtually. And I just wanted to make sure I was on the right information. And so I said, what's the deal? And so he said, it's a war. I think you're seeing the cross section of two world events. Number one, COVID, and number two, the first war in Europe since World War II. The wisdom even 60 days ago was that inflation was a transient issue that would recede once the supply chain loosened. This is proving to either not be the case or become so exacerbated from this war that inflation is moving much faster than anyone could have ever expected. Because of this, the Feds have directly stated that they're going to raise rates at least 5 times this year, which was not the case at Family Reunion. We also think that they may do actually even more than that. The world is just moving very fast, Dana. So I felt a little bit just of clarity from receiving that, but I think that just showed me that in 5 weeks, things have drastically changed in our industry. And so I've been really trying to focus a lot on educating our agents so that they can educate their clients, one, on where we are right now, and then two, what interest rates are happening. Because, for every 1% that the rates go up, the borrowing power decreases by 10%. So a house in December that was $400,000 and compared to rates today at a $400,000, their monthly payment is $340 more. So there are going to be people that, they're not going to be able to pay as much as what they were before. So I think that we have to be aware of those things and really, I'm interested to hear Gary tomorrow, but that's been a big takeaway for me.
So I actually want to go a little off the cuff here, and I want you guys to hear what she just said, and I want you to think about it in light of what we were just talking about with the podcast. Okay? A couple of years ago, someone in our company said, clients don't need an agent on demand, they need information on demand. I still hold that to be true. If you can be the source of that information, you just became the market expert. Even if you do not know all the implications and variables and everything that she just said. Maybe you're not as smart as Dana in the market or Jason Abrams. Doesn't matter. All you need to be able to do is distill the information into a way that listeners can take that and feel like they're smarter. If you do that, you win. Does that make sense? And that's what she just did there. And that's why that was really why I was happy that you were going to go into that conversation after you brought it up the other day. But I think like the thing right now is the world is moving super, super fast.
Yeah, and remember when I said early on, what you're going to do is think about what the person you want to be a hero to is thinking in their mind. Everybody's asking, what does this war mean for us? What does inflation mean to us? So it's the market of the moment. So what you do is you step into that and you start having the conversations with recruits, with your agents, with their buyers and sellers, whoever will listen, because you're going to bring it to the forefront first because they're already thinking it. They're just wondering, I wish someone would talk about this, right? So it's a market of the moment. You could start to have a book club on shift. You could start to have your agents give out shift books to their clients, have a shift, web mastermind class, whatever you want to do. Yeah. And well, we already said this earlier tonight. Okay. We're going to start doing a few series on the shift. And so be there, and no matter what happens, even if you're a little bit wrong, you could present it in such a way that says, come learn what we're going to do as a company to prepare for inflation, the war, and how it's going to affect real estate. Agents will want that because their companies aren't talking about it. So it becomes your opportunity.
Yeah. And actually, this is a really funny story. So, Allie, I'm going to tell the story about the independent broker that responded to your email today. So we put together for our market centers an email to send out to all the thousands of agents in our areas to invite them to attend the event that I'm going to do on Thursday, the virtual event on the industry update. And the subject was, is your broker telling you about the recession? And then it just gave a little bit of stats about interest rates and inflation. And then I did a quick little video, and then we invited them. And then we said the first 10 people to respond to this email, we'll send you a free shift book. And so one of the largest competitors in our Southern Indiana office, the owner broker, within how many minutes? 15 of her sending the email, he responded, and I don't remember it verbatim word for word, but he said, basically, we are not in a recession. I disagree with this. And I think this is a recruiting tactic. And we don't need to be, telling agents about that. We need to be focusing on their training, or I don't know. It was some crazy. And so she was like, read this. And I said, well, he read it. Got a response. He watched the video, clearly. And the good news is so did all of his other agents. And now we know that he is completely out of the loop with what's happening in the industry. So I told her, I was like, we need to go back through the list and call every single one of his agents this week, because that he has no idea what's going on.
100%. That was a mofer, right? That's like the new favorite word.
She set 4 appointments from the email. She just said, make offer for immediate response. 4 appointments from that brokerage. Yeah.
Love it. Give her one more round of applause.
Yeah. Woo.
Good
but
stuff.
Here's the deal: if we didn't know that, and we weren't like actually being local experts ourselves, then we wouldn't have sent those things out, and we wouldn't be hosting these events. Our goal is we just want everybody that when they want to know about the industry, they want to look to us. They want to come to a Zoom or come to the market center, or we want them to be like, man, they know what's going on, and if we aren't getting it at our brokerage, well, at least we can go listen for free. And whether it takes them a month or 12 months, I mean, eventually they're going to look up and be like, man, I'm not getting any of this crap.
Okay. And I'm going to disagree just for a second with Dana, because I believe if you just left the broker piece out of it and just said, come here, what the industry is saying is going to happen or whatever in the recession, because here's what happens sometimes when you're trying to recruit agents and you say something about their broker, there's going to be a certain number that immediately put a line in the sand and they're never crossing it. You're on one side and they're on the other. So I would reword it just a little bit, leave what is your broker telling you out of it, and just take the little more high road approach. Although it worked for you. So those of you that try both. Let's see what happens.
Yes. She's my adultier adult. Do y'all know that quote? Sometimes you look up and you're in a situation and you're like, crap, I need an adult. Oh wait, I am an adult. So now I need an adultier adult. So I always text Linda and I'm like, oh crap, I need an adultier adult today.
I love that. I'm thinking about this, what we're talking about with interest rates and inflation too, from the agent perspective, not just what it means for our clients too. And I think of a study that was released a couple of years ago, which essentially said for a huge percentage of the US population, an additional $500 a month actually keeps them out of poverty. We all know the statistics. Here's where we're at in the industry too. We're 2 years out of COVID. What happened to everyone's recruiting numbers who was actually doing activity when COVID hit? Numbers went up because so many people were sitting at home going through real estate school. How many of us live in states where they're up for renewal and they're not going to renew, right? Part of why they're not going to renew is because they're not making money. This turns into a profit share conversation even. This industry update with inflation, what if 7% inflation means I could change some of my agents' lives just by getting them an additional $500 a month in profit share? And how do we make that the lowest common denominator conversation in our market center? This upcoming all partners meeting for us, we are leading. Our mission moment is actually that question. What does an additional $500 mean for your family? Because right now, I feel in the market of the moment, we're in a situation for a lot of our agents that it just gave me chills, because I know when I look at my top-down report, an additional $500 a month means a whole lot. And so you and I, of all people as leaders, should be the ones who can give them an easy path to go make that happen, both in their active income and in their passive income. And we know passive income, investing in real estate or investing in profit share, greatest hedge against inflation that there possibly is. And so that's where my mind goes when we're thinking about these things.
You just made me think of something else too, which is if you guys are not looking at independent brokerages with mergers right now, it's probably the largest opportunity that there is out there. They are not going to be able to continue to do what they're doing. They're not. And they don't know. They have no clue. Oh, just on my phone. They have no clue what's going on. Most of them do. So I would say just remember, don't forget indies, because it is so much more fun to bring on 20 or 10 or 80 than it is one at a time for those of you that are in leadership. And the more conversations that I'm having with independent brokerage owners, they're burnt out. I mean, they don't want to do it anymore, honestly. And I just listened to a great podcast, and I shared it with a couple of you, but it was a recent Craig Groeschel podcast. Every single person needs to, I was going to send this to you. Every person, did you listen to the one he just released? Every person that's a leader needs to listen to this podcast. He just released it. It's Craig Groeschel's leadership podcast, and it's called Leading Out of a Crisis. And it is amazing. I mean, it's I've listened to it 4 times already. The biggest thing that he talks about is when you are tired, which a lot of us are like, oh, we're tired, we're burnt out, this has been a hard time. When you're tired, you need a nap. But we're not tired. We are actually, we need to be refilled. We're depleted as leaders, and so are our agents, and so are their clients, and so are all of the people that are around us right now. And so I think talking about the industry in this market, I think for me, understanding that and really being able to pour back into the people that I lead, or then not only to that, but to our agents and then to our clients, and figuring out ways to refill them is probably really important. And as we enter into a recession, honestly, it's going to be more important than even it has been during COVID, in my opinion.
The number one request we get is to talk about how to get people out of burnout and remotivated. It's the number one thing that people want us to talk about.
And that's been like that for over a year now. We get the most questions around burnout.
The last 2 speaking engagements I've had have been around sustainability and burnout. Yeah. So I think that is also kind of a transition into just thinking through this week so far, and some of the ahas that we've had. And I know we're pushing up against the end. I'd love to hear from some of you guys, get your voices in the mix as well, some of the ahas that you've had. But I think one of the things that I've been forced to do, even in the last couple of days, is think through my calendar and how I am being filled up so that I can then go give. That's exactly what you're saying. how can we go give to other people what we've not taken in ourselves? Well, and part of that boils down to it's just our time management. And I looked up the other day, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, and it was after a marathon of, back to back to back to back to back. And I said to myself, I'm not going to be able to deliver on any of the promises I just made the entire day because I'm tired. And so just like structuring my day in a way that I can better be filled up is something that like I have to work on.
When you listen to the episode on the podcast, the biggest take, actually, the first time we listened to it, Adam and I were driving back from spring break last week, and we listened to it in the car. And as soon as we got finished, we said, okay, let's make a list of the top 3 to 5 things that refill us. Because he said on the podcast, if you if you think you're tired or depleted or burned out or whatever, most of the time we're like, what? Well, we just need to go on vacation. Well, he says if you go on vacation tired, like you're going to come home from vacation depleted too. Or if you go on vacation depleted, you're coming home from that too. You have to figure out what actually refills you. And it's different for so many different people. For Craig Rochelle on the podcast, he says that he has to have crazy high adrenaline. So he's learning to fly a plane because he said that he said when you are being refilled, it's something that completely shuts your mind off. It clears your head. That's the only way to be refilled is to clear your mind. So he said in order for him to do that, he has to do like a near-death experience. So he's taken up like...
We're going to all go base jumping.
Jiu-jitsu.
We're setting that up tomorrow.
What? Jiu-jitsu? I can't say it. Karate? Yes. Okay. Thank you. And the pilot thing, because he said that those are the only times that like his mind, he's not thinking about, the church or the other staff member or the problem or the this or the that. And I thought, oh my gosh. So Adam and I made a list of the things that refill us. And for me, the number one was going to an event or learning something or being around other people and like getting refilled that way. Because it always gets me back up, even if I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I have time to go. And then it does. And I know you're the same way with that. But like figuring out what it is that actually refills you and then putting that into your schedule.
I'm so glad you just said that. I mean, that's why we do these events, right? I mean, awesome. How about you guys? What aha? Who's had an aha that they want to share?
So for me, this event, just these 3 days and something like this refills me. So I just wish I could do this every quarter, maybe. OP. And it's been amazing. Now I'm just racking my brain saying, okay, how do I deliver the experience that I just had to my market center? Because that becomes the attraction factor. If the same energy I got from it, I can give to them now. Oh man, what is the rest of the year going to look like? What is the rest of the next 3 years going to look like? Oh my gosh, I'm having a blast. So.
And I think when you're considering that question, it's an awesome aha. It's what can you go accomplish as fast as possible? So you're not sitting on it, right? Like what does Thursday or Friday look like that you can deliver energy that day? Or even better, what does getting on camera tonight look like in delivering some of that energy through a screen on social media? Maybe I'll challenge you on that. Another one.
I think, yesterday in the team leader breakout, we talked a lot about the education calendar. And so it's a through line on content because it's the same idea. If you're developing an education calendar that has valuable content on it, you can then repurpose that onto social media, into other purposes. It's the same idea with a podcast, something else. And so that's my big takeaway from the weekend and I'm grateful you guys said just start because I've been going, I need to have all the software and the things and the people to help me do it. Like you just have to do it and then you figure it out, right? Yeah.
And hopefully this is tactical for you. If you're thinking about going the audio route, just jump on Clubhouse or jump on Anchor FM. Anchor app, for anyone that doesn't know about it, it's been around for a long time. It allows you to record a podcast right through your phone.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't see.
Well, mine is the downloadable item, and because you're the downloadable item, because you're capturing the email, and then it becomes permission-based marketing, and they are opening it, and you can actually track that. So then you know what to provide them. with.
Well, and remember, then you're giving them an item of value. And I very much like to recruit by the give, ask price. We've talked about this so many times. Gary V, if anybody, I know he drops a lot of F-bombs, but he's really great, minus that. And he wrote a book years ago called Jab, Jab, Right Hook, if anybody read it or remembers it. And it's all about, that's what it is, Kat. It's the permission based. And so it's you give, and then you ask. So by the time you've given somebody 4 or 5 times, then it's okay to ask them for an appointment, or it's okay to ask them, for whatever it is that you need from them, because you've given so many times that they feel like, oh man, I owe it to them now. I mean, she sent me a picture of my dog and she did this and she did that. So I guess I got to go to lunch with her. So I think like that downloadable guide becomes something just to give to them over and over.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.